Today on Game Rant, Tony Hawk's reviews are in, FBC Firebreak's player base is drying up, and Nintendo is still researching virtual reality. All this and more. It's been a promising few years for the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series. Following several franchise missteps including the widely maligned Pro Skater 5 in 2015 and a foray into motion controllers, the fan favorite struck gold again with 2020's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. And if early reviews are to be believed, this year's follow-up Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 is already set to match the previous collection's high scores. Over on review aggregator site OpenCritic, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 already has a respectable 85 top critic average, but even more impressive is its 100% critics recommendation, meaning regardless of score, every single review submitted ultimately gave it a positive suggestion. Much like the previous remaster, this year's game is receiving high praise for its translation of Tony Hawk 3 and 4 into widescreen with accurate gameplay and physics, although not all features made the cut. As previously reported, this version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 will not feature the original's free roam mode, which allowed players to approach and trigger individual missions. Instead, developer Iron Galaxy adopted a traditional format where all activities are available from the start, but must be completed in a limited amount of time, as seen in the first 3 games. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 will be arriving this Friday on July 11, 2025, on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, Nintendo Switch and Switch 2, as well as Windows PC. And of course, will also be launching on Xbox Game Pass. What Tony Hawk games do you think deserve a remaster next? Chat back in the comments below. It's been a rough couple of weeks for FBC Firebreak, the new game from Remedy, the developers behind Max Payne Control and Alan Wake. Unlike those games, FBC Firebreak focuses on multiplayer co-op, and unfortunately it simply isn't pulling in a strong player base. While its opening week managed to pull in a total of 1 million players, recent numbers have been significantly lower. According to SteamDB, the game's previous concurrent high was 1,992 players around the June 17th launch. However, only several days later, that 24-hour peak fell to the mid-200s, but now most recently has fallen sharply to a meager 85 players per its 24-hour peak. It is worth noting this is only recording Valve's Steam platform, and FBC Firebreak was notably available on other services including Sony's PlayStation Plus Extra and Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass. Over on OpenCritic, FBC Firebreak's most recent reviews have caused it to slide lower to a 64 top critic average, but only a 24% critics recommendation, totaling an overall weak rating. While many have praised the combination of Control's cosmic horror with the co-op multiplayer FPS template, just as many have found the execution to be confusing and underwhelming, with fans and critics criticizing the game's lack of tutorial or introduction to the game's mechanics, while other complaints include matchmaking and a light amount of content overall. Have you played FBC Firebreak yet? Did you stick with it? Chat back in the comments below. Nintendo has shared their latest annual financial report for the fiscal year 2025, which ended on March 31st. However, one section in particular is gaining the attention of tech enthusiasts. As first reported by Game Rant, under Section 6 Research and Development Activities, Nintendo gave insight into their current hardware exploration. Quote, "We also carry out research and development activities to examine the applicability of various technologies to the field of home entertainment, including interfaces such as touch panels and sensors, networks such as those for wireless communication, security, cloud computing, virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality, deep learning, and big data analysis. Our efforts are not limited to in-house studies and research, and we are also exploring various possibilities on a daily basis to discover technologies that will help create new ways to play by proactively turning our attention outside Nintendo." Nintendo has a long and somewhat controversial history in the virtual reality industry dating back to the 1990s and their ill-fated Virtual Boy. More recently, in 2019, Nintendo released the Nintendo Labo VR Kit. Treated as a toy extension of the Nintendo Switch console, besides the VR goggles themselves, the majority of the kit was made entirely out of cardboard. But since then, Nintendo has been absent from the space, while offshoots like Pokemon Go remain popular in augmented reality. Do you think the Switch 2 is powerful enough for virtual reality? Chat back in the comments below. And finally, game news outlet Push Square has released a report giving more detail into the PlayStation Plus library selection process. Currently, the Sony subscription service has 3 tiers: Essential, Extra, and Premium, each progressively unlocking more features including classic games from previous generations being available for premium users. But according to Push Square, the process has less to do with Sony and more to do with third parties. Speaking with the member of developers Oliver Zagurath, pushed Square explaining the publishers are approaching Sony about releasing games onto their classic library, which might explain the section's slower rollout. But that certainly hasn't hurt the premium tier, with an 18% increase in engagement over last year according to a recent report from Sony. Currently, the PlayStation Plus Classic lineup includes both PlayStation and PlayStation 2 games directly emulated from the console. However, PlayStation 3 remains available through cloud streaming. What PlayStation Classics are you hoping will arrive soon? Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video, but we'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, why not check out Christian Buckley's best 90s 3D platformers still worth playing? Sure, video games have changed a lot over the past quarter century, but these classics still hold up. Keep clicking around here at Game Rant, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.